So now that we've added some code to our controller in order to implement data binding, we're going to have to add a few things to our JSP file as well. So far we have two methods that we're using to do with creating a new book. The first one is book/new, which is going to just render the page. The other one is our /books route, not to be confused with the get/books, but this is a post mapping of /books. Book/new is just going to render the page, and then whenever the user hits the submit button, it will go to that /books post method right here. So here we have a normal form, but we are going to have to add some things to it. So the first thing you're going to have to add is import this form tag library. And the next thing we're going to do is use the form tag library. So the tag you're going to use is actually just the prefix form. So that'll be used on the opening form tag as well as the closing form tag. And this just exposes any of its child tags to data binding. And in order for that to happen, you also have to put the form prefix in any of your child tags that are going to be involved in the binding itself. So we'll do that real quick with some magic here. Voila. And notice the submit button itself does not have to be a form tag. The next thing you do have to make sure you have is the book itself. So in order for that model attribute book to be sent into the page, we need to add a tag attribute called model attribute. And then give it the value that we gave it in our controller. So in this case, when we added the model attribute here, we called it book. So I'm going to call it book in here. Oops, not nook. The book nook, that would be nice. So that's that. And the last thing we have to do is actually change all of these names to path. There we go. So these paths actually correspond to the model. Now, normally when you have a form, the name doesn't matter what you give it as long as it matches in the controller. With data binding, that's not the case. It actually does have to be the name of that particular member variable of the class itself. So this title for both the label, the input, right, has to match the name of that member variable in the book class. So title, description, language, number of pages. So now that we have that all in place, let's run it. We're going to go to the /new page first, and then we'll just see if we can create a book. All right. Spring Boot app, run as. And it started on port 80. Good news. Oh, let's refresh this. All right, there's my form. Now I'll put in some book. The Little Prince, a children's book. It's a very good book. Language, well, it's originally in French. Pages, I don't know, 100? Submit. There it is, The Little Prince. So we're able to create that book with data binding. So let's add some error validation. In our post mapping for /books, so when the user submits the form, we're going to add, in addition to that book that we're sending back, we're going to add an extra argument here called binding result. And we'll give it the name result. So this is the type, binding result, and the result. You will have to import it. It's a new import, so just go ahead and Shift-Command-O, and that should work. Now we're going to use this result, which is collecting information about that object. So if there's any errors when the user enters the information, it will collect it for you. So now we're just going to do an if statement. If result dot has errors. There we go. All right, so if there are any errors, so if the result dot has errors, we're just going to re-render that new page. So we're going to add an extra tag in our form to show the errors. And here it is. So it's another form tag. We have its form errors, and it also needs to have that path so it knows which one to test against the model. All right, and I'm going to do some magic and add the rest of them in. And there we go. So let's run it again and see if it'll catch any of those errors. All right, so I'm just going to submit it all blank and see if it'll, woo! And it did give me a scary white label error page, but it actually told me that the reason it failed was because validation failed, which is actually good. So what we're missing is actually a tag in the JSP that indicates that it is a page that will show errors rather than just showing the user our developer error, the white label error, which would be pretty scary. So let's put that in there. Oh, and the other thing we have to do is add this @valid annotation because we're expecting to do validations. Let's test it again. /new, submit, and there we go. So these are a little awkward in terms of errors. So one thing you can do, instead of giving the user an error that doesn't make sense, we can customize our errors a little bit. So we'll go to the model itself, and for any of these model level validations, you can actually put a message as well. So for example, you saw the not null there. So for number of pages, we'll just add a message argument, and that'll give a custom message that we can use. Must not be blank. This will have to be value equals. All right, since we have another argument in there. And you can do the same thing with the other fields. So for example, instead of having 3 to 40, you could say message must be at least 3 characters. And so on and so forth. Oh, I just realized this must not be blank should go on not null. There we go. And then this would probably must be at least 100 pages. Although that's not really fair. There are some really good short books out there. Okay, let's run it one more time and see what it looks like. So we'll go to book/new, refresh the page, and then submit. Title must be at least 5 characters. Description must be at least 5 characters. Pages must not be blank. So let's try it with a number. And you can see must be at least 100 pages. So hopefully that's enough to get you started. Good luck.